Hello guys and welcome back. Have I got something for you? I think this might be one of the best videos that I've ever made on First Man. It's pretty crazy. As you can see from the title, we're talking about the men 27 and under. Well, it applies to all guys really, but that's just a catchy headline. And it's just the way that men's lives end at 27 on average. And I'll explain why. And I looked through all these figures today and I was doing some research, and guys, honestly, this is blowing my fucking mind. I cannot believe what I'm seeing based on this data, and I'll explain it to you. So, I knew before that the most sex of a man's life is 27 years old. And I always wonder why it was 27, because I know that men peak at like 36, 37, or that's at least what we figured out from the data. And I know that men are most attractive around about 32, according to women. It's around about that age. I think it might have been 35 as well. I think it might have been 35, but I believe that as a culmination between wealth and everything, like every aspect of a man's life added up collectively, I personally believed that around about 36, 37 was a man's peak. So I always wondered why 10 years before a man is having more sex than ever. And then today I saw the statistic which changed everything, which was the average age that a man settles down is 28 years old. So it's not that men are at their peak at 27, they're having the most sex of their life, and then it drops off. That number would be way fucking higher if people just stuck to their guns a lot longer instead of jumping the gun as such and saying, okay, the first beautiful woman that comes along that finds me attractive, I'm gone. Because this is what guys don't understand, is the male advantage comes a lot later down the line. It comes, like I said, in your 30s, when you're mid-30s or whatever. This is when you're at your actual peak. And then it goes on for like another 10, 15 years if you maintain yourself. And so many guys are jumping the gun too early, and I'll tell you why. Because if they're getting the most sex of their life at 27, this is because most guys growing up are awkward. Like I said, the curve for women is like this. Born 16, through the roof, perceived value, and suddenly they start developing and just all these men just find them attractive, and it's just crazy. Whereas a man is like this, you just low value, low value, low value, and then it just slowly rises. But you've got that gradual growth. But before you know where you are as a man, around about in your mid-30s, if you work on it and you build it, you hit peak value, which is way higher than what any woman can achieve just based on beauty. And this is clearly what's happening. So a lot of guys are raising up in value. They get into like 27, where they've obviously got more assets than they did in their teens and early 20s. They've obviously got a better life, more money. They obviously look more like a man. Maybe they've been hitting the gym. And suddenly, these women start sniffing around and they think, okay, this is a great potential partner. How old are you? 27. Perfect. This is the perfect age to have kids, etc. Have a mortgage, move in together, whatnot, get married. And they have this idea of like their dream husband. And a lot of these guys, they're not used to that. This is the problem, guys. You're just getting going. It's like driving a car and getting up to like 90 miles per hour and then just hitting like a limiter and being like, fuck, that'll do. I won't go any quicker. You've still got like another 100 miles per hour beyond that, but you're not using it. Because so many guys are like, I've never been this fast before. Check out. This will do. This is fantastic. It's like taking a deal early. Like if you've been broke all your life, it happens in the music industry, and somebody like Sony comes along and says, we want to sign you on a £1 million contract, a $1 million contract. Most people who, let's say you grew up in the hood and you're in the hip hop industry, you just be like, yeah, sure, million. Never seen money like that in my life. Whereas if you had waited 6 months, maybe a year, the next deal might have been 12, 15, 20 million. You don't know what's coming. If you had just handled yourself, it would have been way better. And that's what guys are doing. They're just copping out early. So I just got this vision of guys that didn't get girls when they were younger, just getting that improved value, getting to around about 25, starting to get more women, 26 more women, 27. They feel like they're at their peak. They're getting a ton of women. They're maybe the most attractive guy in the club at the time. And the first hot woman that comes along that they think is like a 7 or an 8, maybe even higher, but usually a 7 or an 8, they're just being like, yeah, damn, that's my dream girl. That's somebody I've always wanted to be with. Let's be in a relationship. And then when they're at 28, they're settled down. That's it. They're out of the game. They've settled down. And I'm not talking just about attraction and relationships here. This goes so much deeper, but that sets it up, guys. And the next shit that you're about to hear is going to blow your mind. Okay, so most guys are having the most sex of their life at 27. They meet women because obviously, like I said, they have a higher value, so they're meeting more women. They meet a woman that they believe is way better than them because that's not what they're used to. By 28, bang, they're settled down. Okay, 2 years later, 30 years old, marriage is that 30 is the average age for a man to get married. 30 years old. It was like 29.9, but I just said it was 30. I rounded it up. But within 2 years, if a man settles down, after he's just about to enter his peak, he's enjoying his first year of his peak, he quits, he cops out, he gets in a relationship with maybe the first hot woman that he finds or the first hot woman that wants to have sex with him. You blame them in hindsight, but you don't blame them in a way because they've never had that before. But he settles down. 2 years later, he's married. Okay, so now straight away you've just shackled yourself in one area of life. That's a real struggle. I'm going to break down the money in a minute. It's going to blow your mind. 2 years later after getting married, the average guy at 32 years old gets a mortgage. So you've entered your peak at 27. You settle down with a woman at 28. 4 years later, you're married with a mortgage. That's a quick change. And what happens when you're married and you have a mortgage, guys, and you're living with a woman for a whole year? Babies. Baby number one at 33 years old. Come on down. So you've got a situation where you're at your peak at 27. You're just entering your peak. You're just experiencing this new life. And you're like, this is different. I'm getting all this attention, all these women, all this respect. I'm kind of, moving into that alpha male position. And I quit. I just cop out. I'm going to retire early. It's like a footballer or NFL player or a basketball player reaching 27 and everyone's like, they're in their peak now. And you're like, yeah, I'm going to retire, cancel my contract. I don't want to sign the next big contract that was going to be a 5-6 year one. It's fine. I've made enough money. I'm out. It's like, no, this is the big time now. You're about to push up. But within, like I said, from 28 to 33, so within a 5-year spell, so within 5 years of settling down, most men are married with a mortgage and they've got their first kid. And this is why I said as the title, guys, or I might change it by the time I put this out, but 27 is a dangerous age for men. And like men who are 27 and under need to be ready and watch out. Or men who are around 27 who haven't done any of this yet need to be really careful because men's lives end at 27, in my opinion. Now, it's a 5-year destruction. It's just a 5-year destruction period from 27 to 33. Or 28 to 33. Look at my maths. But like I said, men peak at 36. Men peak at 36, 37 years old. 10 years before that, they're deciding to destroy their lives. They're not even at their peak yet. And this is why I think so many men get to, like, let's say, 35, 36, 37 and go and have affairs. Because they're like, okay, I'm married with a mortgage. I've got a kid. This isn't how I plan my life to go. And suddenly, they're looking at other women because other women are looking at them. They're in their peak. Maybe they didn't make it. Maybe, because of all these things, their life went like that because they haven't got as much time or money, which we'll get to in a minute. It's going to blow your fucking mind. But if they kept their health up, if they kept themselves looking good, they might be 37 years old with good money, decent assets, etc. And they've worked themselves to the bone to provide that for their family, which is morally good. It's not a bad thing, and some people love that life. It's a good life. I'm not knocking anybody who wants to go down that route. This isn't what I'm saying, guys. If you've always wanted to be a dad and get married and have a mortgage, who am I to tell you otherwise? Go do it. But I'm just saying to you, watch out for these warning flags that will say, these red flags that I'll tell you in a minute. But you could get to 37, 36, 37, and you've just done this 5-year destruction period, or a little bit more. Let's say you get to 34 and you've just done this 5-year destruction period. At the other side of it, you might be sat there and now there's women that are like 9s and 10s and they're coming up to you and they've got good personalities, good sense of humor. They're your real perfect woman now that you're older. And you're like, shit, I'm tied down. I'm going to have an affair. I'm going to have to cheat. I'm going to have to leave my wife and kid. Like, this is what happens. I think this is why marriages are breaking so much, because we're living long lives now and there's so many opportunities and options. And I just think people are just copping out so early. They're just saying, oh, right, okay. My late 20s, when I'm just about to hit my peak, when I'm just about to start my peak, I'm going to cop out and I'm going to take on 3 of the biggest bills in human history. And now we move over to the money. So The most sex of a man's life is at 27. He's enjoying his life. You know, he's got this whole world ahead of him. He can improve from there. He could grow. He could become an outlier male, as I've explained before. But then the average man settles down at 28. So from 28 to 30 is 2 years of dating, you'd imagine, okay, before they get married. Now, the average dating year costs around about £1,350, around about $1,700, I think, currently. So for the average American, that's just over $3,000 in that 2 year period that's going on just dating. For the average person in the UK, that's close to 3,000 as well. It's about £3,000, just shy, 27. I think it's 27. £2,700 going on dating over that 2 year period. So that's your first cost, okay? That's 3,000 basically going down the drain that you could have used for anything you wanted to do. Start a business. The average cost to start a business is 3 to 5. Not that hard. So then you decide to get married. Okay, decide to get married at 30 years old. And by that point, the couple's probably renting as well at that point. So there's a lot of money going out there. But you might be paying that yourself anyway. But you've got marriage at 30 years old. Now, the average marriage is $34,000, around about £28,000. That's a huge amount of money, guys. That is a huge amount of money. If you were to put $34,000 into a business idea, investments, maybe you could buy a property and rent it out for that. Not in places like London, but a few places around the UK you could. And I definitely know you could get something in America, not currently with the coronavirus, but at different times in America, you could have definitely got a home for that and rented it out and had a second income. That's gone on a marriage and a honeymoon, etc. 34,000. I know you don't have to have an expensive one, but I'm just saying this is the average. These are average figures. So the average guy is doing this at 30 years old, because it's expected, which is fucking insane. Then we've got the average mortgage, which is around about 30 to 40,000. So let's say 35,000 UK and 35,000 US. It's about fair. That's going on a house. So yeah, a lot of people think it's an asset. It's not. It's a liability unless you rent it out. So I always think your first 2 homes you should rent. You should buy to let. I don't think you should ever live in your first 2 homes. I think the third one you should live in, because the first 2 pay for the third one. I think it's the only way to do it. But that's 30 grand, 40, 35 grand that's come out of your bank account again. So we're looking at close to 70,000 already. The average guy, or just over 70,000, that the average guy has shelled out from 28 to 32. So that's 4 years of destruction right there. Here's where it gets scary, guys. And that's the average mortgage. A lot of people have a more expensive one. And then don't forget, on top of that, you've got probably average payments of $700-800 per month in mortgage payments, about £600, which is another cost. If you were a single man living on your own, MGTOW style, you could live very cheaply because you're not going to worry about being in a flat share or something, keeping your bills low. But then we've got the first child at 33, just 1 year later. So you've basically used all your money up, if the average guy probably would. And then you're in a situation where this blows me away. To raise a child from birth to 18 years old, just one kid, just one child, apparently costs $284,000. So about 250,000 UK pounds. Guys, that's one child. The average family has about 2 children. So you're looking at like 500, just in that time frame. They might have 2. That's the crazy thing. The average person probably has 2. So you're probably looking at 500,000 roughly just on 2 kids. And kids aren't bad, guys. Like, I'm not saying stay away from kids, never have kids. What I'm saying is do it later. Like, be selfish, worry about yourself. We're living to like 80, 90 years old now. By the time us lot die, it might even be 100. It might even be more. We might be fucking cyborgs. So don't be in a rush to just add yourself to give yourself these bills. But I worked out that even with just one kid, it's roughly 400,000, which is about 22,000 per year, which is like the average wage. I think in the US and the UK, it's not far off the average wage. I know in the UK, it's very, very close to the average wage, full-time and part-time collectively. So every year you're throwing away a full-time wage, basically, if you go down that route from, like I said, 28-year-old, settle down, marriage at 30, mortgage at 32, first child at 33. and you just have this 5-year destruction period where you don't throw away, but you've made poor choices, in my opinion, too young, where you've got rid of about 400,000-500,000, which is like 22,000 per year. And if you had had a second kid in that period, I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong, that's over 18 years with the kid, so that's going to be divided over a longer period of time, but you've set yourself up to lose that amount of money, if that makes sense. And if you have a second kid, like I said, guys, you're looking at like 600,000 about 600,000 that you're not going to get your hands on, that you're going to just throw away in your lifetime over an 18-year period, just from those 5-year those decisions, those destructive decisions in that 5-year period. And here's where it becomes mind-blowing, is that the average person earns around about 1.1 million in a lifetime. In America, I think it's about $1.3 million in a lifetime, 1.4. In the UK, it's about 1.1 million pounds in a lifetime. So as I said, guys, if you have one kid, you're roughly blowing 400,000 of your 1.1 million in your whole lifetime. So it's about a third. It's just over a third of what you're going to earn in your entire life. Just over a third from those 4 simple decisions of settling down, getting married, getting a mortgage, having a kid. In that little 5-year window that apparently men do on average, you're destroying just over a third of your lifetime income. And if you have a second kid, you're looking at just over 50% of all the money you're ever going to earn in your lifetime. And then up to that point, before you get to like 27, you might have already blown through 10% of everything you're ever going to earn. So you're probably left with like 30% of everything you're ever going to earn again that you're going to keep as in after tax, etc., for yourself. That's nothing. And you think about that, guys, over an 18-year period from 28 to, oh God, maths, panicking, what is it, 56? Or 46? Panic time, guys. I'm on the spot. I think it's 46. It is. So during that period, at 46 years old, you could have invested 600,000 selfishly into you, your business, your fitness, assets. Imagine what position you'd be in before you hit 50 years old. Then you could settle down. You'd have everything in place to do so. And not even in that 18-year period, guys. That could even be in that 5-year period. Like I said, in that 5-year period, you're blowing around about 3,000 just to date this woman or man. Well, I'll get to that in a minute. There's a reason. Well, I'll get to it now. There's a reason that gay guys are considered the wealthiest group of people on planet Earth, because gay guys weren't allowed to marry or adopt kids for a very long time. So that group just grew and grew, which I'm against. I think that gay guys should be able to marry and adopt kids if they, are suitable parents, if they pass criteria, as anybody should. But they were saving all of that money because they weren't allowed to do certain things, which is crazy. But they weren't allowed to do certain things, so they were putting their assets and money in other places or saving it. They didn't have kids. They didn't have, they usually have a flamboyant wedding, as many of us know, but they wouldn't be doing the whole, they wouldn't be, they're doing weddings now, flamboyant weddings, but at the time they weren't allowed to marriage. They weren't having that £35,000 bill. And then with a kid, they weren't having that £284,000 bill or dollar bill over the period of 18 years. That's why they were the wealthiest group. And they're both men, which statistically are higher earners. So that's why they were making so much money. I think that's going to curtail off now, and it's going to go back to about normal because all these laws have been changed. But that just says a lot. That speaks volumes. But if we just look at it, guys, so we got 3,000 for those first 2 years of dating that have gone. That could be to start a business. And then after those first 2 years, you're then forking out 34,000 roughly on a marriage. The average guy is, which is that's mind-boggling, okay? And this isn't to mention as well, guys. Actually, I'll get to that in a second. Then you've got the mortgage at 32. So 2 years later, you're blowing another 30,000. So every single year, you could be putting about 16,000 into a business. Every single year, 16,000 investment into a business or into some properties over that period of time. You could have assets, a business. You could have a personal trainer for that kind of price. You could be in you could do language lessons. You could buy self-help books, everything, courses, whatever. You could be in one hell of a position. But then, like I said, you get the mortgage. around about 30,000 plus the payments. And don't forget, guys, whenever you move into a new house, you're going to have extra bills on top of that, but you're also going to have those days where you go to IKEA. I don't know what you have in America, but you go to like IKEA and you pick up all the furniture with your wife and you go halves and you buy a new TV, and then, you know, you're buying the new sofa and you're buying all the cutlery, like the knives and the fork and the nice china plates. Like all that shit comes with it. So that's not even, it isn't even half the story. And then you've got to remember that 1,350 per year to date, that continues when you're married. That continues when you're living together, because that's obviously going to be dates and date nights and holidays and birthdays and Valentine's Day and Christmases and all this shit. It's still going to be the same price. So over that 5-year period, we can add another like 3,000-4,000 to that number as well. It's just astronomical. So you're looking at, just from the period of time and having your first child, you're going to go and buy cots. You're going to be going, you know, and changing your car and buying all these gates and the baby clothes and the food, etc. Now, obviously, that comes into the number of 284,000. But you just think there's so much money going on stuff that it's just not necessary. And I think from the age of, like I said, guys are just entering their peak at 27. They're having the most sex of their life. They're getting ready for this big, you know, journey ahead of them. At 28, they settle down. They start burning through money. By 30, they've spent around about 40 grand. By 32, they've burnt through around about 80,000 of spare money. And then by about 33, before, like probably in the first year of having that child, they'll probably blow through about 18,000 just buying new stuff for the child, you know, buying clothes and cots and everything, you know, and just going excessive with everything that they have. You're probably looking at 100 grand just gone down the drain during that 5-year period. That's insane, guys. Like how much money could get put into a business. And then, like I said, you're at your peak at 36. But at 36, you've got a kid. You probably have a second one by then. If I search the average age of a second kid, I guarantee it says something like 35, 36 years old for most men. Well, you know, now you're looking at, like I said, 500,000 going out the door over the next 18 years, just from 2 children, which you've got to raise. You know, you can't pull the plug on them. But fuck me, 500,000? Like, that could buy you 2 houses outright in small towns in the UK. You know, that could build you a business up to a level where you're making 20, 30 million a year, where you've invested that money and now it's doing very, very well. And all I'm saying, guys, is that 5 year of destruction that starts at like 27, when you start getting that perceived value and you've because everybody's following First Man is working on themselves. You wouldn't have found it if you didn't want to do that. You're going to attract women. You're going to attract, you know, you're going to attract men if you're gay. You're gonna get this value where you're 27 years old. You're becoming the outlier male. You're becoming the alpha male. People are going to want to gravitate towards you. If you can just resist that dangerous 5-year period that it seems to be from, or let's say 6-year period from 27 to about 33. If you can just glide through that and just keep all that money to yourself and reinvest it, because they're great earning years for men. You know, a lot of men earn a lot of money from jobs in that period. You know, if you can reinvest that, if you can get some homes, if you can get some assets, if you can make some good investments, if you can invest in your business, work on yourself, you're then going to get to like 34 years old and you're going to be so far ahead of every other man that even if at that point you then said, okay, I'm going to settle down, I'm going to have kids, I'm going to get a mortgage, etc., and now I'm going to do that life, that's still a million times better than the other route of just wasting all your money and having nothing for yourself. You know, you only get one life. Be selfish, use it for yourself, reinvest your own money, make sure you're okay, and then help, you know, the family that you want to build, the others around you, etc. You know, personally, I would wait till I was like 40, mid-40s, maybe closer to 50 to go down the whole, I'll never get married, but go down the whole kids route, and maybe, I wouldn't never have a mortgage. I want to buy a house outright. I don't want to, you know, be paying massive bills every single month for something that is a liability. I'd rather buy it outright and then, you know, maybe buy 2 or 3, rent 2 outright and then live in the 3rd so that I have 0 bills. It's a smart way of doing it, but you're never going to get there if you're just going to do that 5 or 6 years of destruction from like 28 to 33 years old, where you end up, like I said, 600,000 collectively if you have 2 kids. The average person only earns 1.1 million in their lifetime. So over half of all the money you're ever going to earn in your life pretty much gets wrapped up in a 5 or 6 year period. Pretty much just goes out the door. You're just signing contracts left, right, and center. You're signing your life away in that tiny little period. And it all starts at 27. And this is why 27 is the most dangerous age for men, and why so many men's lives end at 27. So watch out, guys.